On the 20th of November 1968, in the rural English countryside near the small mining town of Hanbury in Staffordshire, a family of Yugoslav immigrants experienced something so strange and out of this world it would prove impossible to forget. Milan Milakovic, his wife Doris, and their 11-year-old son Slavic had set out that afternoon on a routine house hunting trip. The couple, who lived with their 11 children at 432 Cannock Road in Hanbury, were looking for a larger home. Their journey took them through the English countryside, passing through Rugeley and Abbots Bromley before stopping at Hanbury to view Hanbury Hall. Hanbury sits on the border between Staffordshire and Derbyshire, positioned roughly between Uttoxeter and Burton-on-Trent. The area, while peaceful and rural, was not without its share of military presence. Just 3.5 miles to the northwest lay Central Workshop 32 REME, an army installation. 2 miles in the same direction was a Royal Air Force station that served as an ammunition depot, with vague rumours circulating among locals that nuclear weapons might be stored there. 3 miles to the south, a former World War II airfield had been converted for civilian use by the Incoop brewery firm, which operated light aircraft from the location. None of this would have seemed particularly relevant to the Milakovics as they made their way home that evening. They'd stopped just outside Hanbury to examine an old house that was up for sale, and by the time they continued on their journey, dusk was rapidly approaching. The time was somewhere between 5:30 and 5:45 in the evening. In late November, at that hour, the sky would have been deep in twilight, with no road light to illuminate their path. Any bright object in such conditions would have been immediately noticeable. The first indication that something unusual was about to occur came not from the sky, but from the ground. As the Milakovics drove along the country road, a rabbit suddenly darted across their path. This was followed by several more rabbits, all emerging from a hedge on the left side of the road and fleeing with apparent urgency. Behaviour was striking enough to catch the attention of the family. When Milan glanced through the hedge from which the animals had fled, he saw something in the field beyond that made him bring the car to an immediate stop. There, close to the ground in the field to the left, was a brilliantly illuminated object. The craft was enormous, comparable in width to a house. Its structure wasn't like anything the family had ever seen. The underside appeared dark and bowl-shaped, while the top featured a transparent dome that glowed with segmented lightning in vertical bands of white, amber, and green. The entire thing was completely silent. Not a sound emanated from it, despite its obvious size and the intensity of its illumination. As the family watched in astonishment, the object began to rise slowly from the field. It lifted into the air and passed directly over the stopped vehicle. Doris immediately noticed something peculiar. As the craft flew overhead, the air temperature seemed to increase considerably, creating a warmth that was distinctly noticeable in the cold November evening. But as the object continued on its path, moving away from them, the temperature dropped back to normal just as quickly as it had risen. Milan and Doris got out of the car to watch the object's progress. It drifted over a field on the right side of the road, heading towards a house that stood approximately 100 yards away. When it reached a position directly above the house, the craft came to a stop and hovered in place. The witnesses described this hovering behaviour as peculiar. It quivered in the air, moving in a way that Doris would later describe as being like jelly. The motion wasn't like anything associated with conventional aircraft. A kind of oscillating stability that seemed almost organic in nature. For the next 5 minutes or so, the Milakovics and their son witnessed something that would elevate their sighting from merely unusual to genuinely extraordinary. Through the transparent dome atop the craft, they could see what appeared to be several humanoid figures. These beings were visible as silhouettes against the bright interior lighting, and they appeared to be moving about within the upper portion of the object. The witnesses described them as walking across the bright top of the craft. At intervals, Some of the figures would bend down, as though they were examining or looking at something in the lower part of the object, below the rim of the dome. The movement suggested purpose and activity. Through the distance of roughly 100 feet, the couple and their son could not make out specific details about the appearance of these entities beyond their generally human-like shape. The family stood transfixed by the sight, watching these figures go about whatever business occupied them within the hovering craft. The dome's illumination made the observation possible, casting the occupants as dark shapes against a bright background of white, amber, and green light segments. Whatever the beings were doing, they showed no apparent awareness of or interest in the witnesses below, continuing their activities as the craft hung motionless above the nearby house. Then the situation transformed dramatically. The object began to move again, this time rising in what the witnesses described as a pulsating or jerky movement. As it ascended, the intensity of its light increased sharply. The brightness became so overwhelming that Millen felt a burning sensation in his eyes. The pain was immediate and alarming, a sharp irritation that made it impossible to continue watching the departing craft. Thoroughly frightened by this turn of events, Millen acted decisively. By all accounts, a brave man under normal circumstances, he found himself sufficiently disturbed by what was happening to push his wife and son back into the car with great urgency. He started the engine and drove away from the scene as quickly as he could manage, leaving behind the quivering, brilliantly lit object and its mysterious occupants. The Milankovitch encounter was subsequently investigated by NMH Turner and W. Daniels, who documented the couple and their son's testimony. The case was also reported by NICAP, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, in their publication Strange Effects from UFOs, compiled by Donald Kehoe and Gordon Law. The investigators found the witnesses to be credible, and the multiple physiological effects reported the heat felt during the overflight and the eye irritation caused by the intensifying light lent additional weight to their account. No ground traces were found at the location where the object had initially rested in the field. The family's vehicle experienced no electronic interference or mechanical problems during the encounter. The eye irritation that Millen suffered appeared to be temporary, with no lasting symptoms reported after the family departed the area. The warmth that Doris had felt as the craft passed overhead similarly left no lasting effects. The behaviour of the rabbits at the start of the encounter has prompted considerable discussion among researchers. The animals fled the field before the Milankovitch family had even noticed the object, suggesting they may have been aware of its presence through senses unavailable to humans. Rabbits can hear sounds in the ultrasonic range up to frequencies between 49 and 60 kHz, well beyond the upper limit of human hearing. This means they could potentially detect high-frequency vibrations, ultrasonic emissions, or rapid atmospheric pressure changes that would be completely imperceptible to people. If the craft produced any such emissions, even while appearing completely silent to human observers, the rabbits would have been acutely aware of something alarming in their immediate vicinity. Alternatively, the animals might have simply been responding to the motion of the object, its sudden heat emissions, or its bright light, which happened to all be momentarily shielded from the road by the hedge. The precise cause remains unknown, but the timing of their flight immediately preceding the family's sighting suggests more than mere coincidence. The jelly-like quivering motion observed while the craft hovered has been noted in other British UFO reports from the same era. Various explanations have been proposed, ranging from atmospheric distortion caused by heat emanating from the object to some form of stabilization mechanism inherent to its propulsion system. The segmented lighting visible in the dome with its distinct bands of white, amber and green might have indicated internal partitions within the craft, rotating illumination sequences or distinct functional zones within the upper section. Without closer observation, the significance of these features remains a matter of speculation. The Mlakevich sighting occurred during a period of notable UFO activity in the Cannock Chase region. Between 1966 and 1969, multiple reports emerged from the area describing structured lights and dome-shaped objects. While no direct connection between these cases has been established, the Mlakevich encounter fits within a broader pattern of unusual aerial phenomena observed in that part of England during the late 1960s. Whether the proximity to military installations played any role in the sighting remains an open question. The presence of the REME workshop, the RAF ammunition depot, and the converted airfield within just a few miles of the encounter location has led some researchers to speculate about possible connections, whether the object might have been engaged in surveillance of these facilities, or whether its appearance was simply coincidental, a result of the rural roads in the area passing near military sites. No evidence has emerged to link the object to any known military technology, and the presence of humanoid figures visible through a transparent dome makes misidentification of secret equipment an unlikely explanation. What the Mlakevich and their son witnessed that November evening remains unexplained. A house-sized craft with a dark bowl-shaped bottom and a transparent illuminated dome, several human-like figures moving purposefully within its upper section, heat that came and went as the object passed on overhead, light intense enough to cause physical discomfort, and through it all, not a single sound to account for any of it. Millen, Doris and Slavich drove away from Hanbury that evening with an experience they would carry with them for the rest of their lives. A 5-minute ordeal that evaded rational explanation.